Good evening. I'm Maya Hasagawa, and I'm the Vice Chair of the Development Review Board, and it's 2 minutes after 7, and I'm calling this meeting to order. I'm going to read some opening remarks. We'll wait for these folks to come in, please, and we've just started.
Sign in if you're
And you need to sign in. There's a clipboard floating around someplace. As I said, I'm Maya Hasagawa. I'm the Vice Chair of the Development Review Board, and I'm chairing the meeting tonight. I'm going to read the Chair's opening remarks, and I know some of you have heard these before. I know Carol has. At the DRB, we hear applications for land development in the town of Brattleboro and appeals of zoning administrator decisions. Procedurally, the Development Review Board operates on the record. Broadly, this means we take a clear record of testimony from the applicant and any interested parties, and then issue a written decision with our findings. Applicants and members of the public should be aware that we are on the record, and this is your opportunity to comment on and provide evidence relating to an application. In the event our decision is appealed to the environmental court, the court will not take or consider additional testimony at its hearing. It will look at the evidence from our hearing, the regulations, and determine if the evidence supports the findings and the decision of this board. Only interested persons that participate in this proceeding may appeal a decision made by the board, so I strongly encourage all of you to speak up at this hearing. As we are on the record, I'm going to ask that you affirm that your testimony will be truthful. So would the applicants and anyone wishing to speak to an application, please raise your right hand. Even if you just think you might, you're not sure, but you might, you should get sworn in. Are you going to testify?
No.
Okay.
Just wanted to get out of the way of the hands.
All right. I hereby affirm that the evidence I give in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury. Say, I do.
I do.
Applicants require a majority vote of the full board to succeed. That is 4 votes out of 7, and we have 6 people here tonight. So you need to convince 4 of us that we should approve your application. We have one other member who couldn't be here tonight who will review the television tape, and he can participate and vote if there's any question. See, if we do not have a full board present to hear your application, then we will consider a request to continue your application to the next public meeting. So if you want 7 people here, you can ask for continuance when your case comes up. After taking testimony, the board will close the public hearing and may vote on your application. The board will issue a written decision within 45 days of the close of the hearing. While we may vote on an application, it is the written decision that controls the timeline for appeal. It should be noted that the town of Brattleboro is a party with an interest in land development applications. The town does not have a special status before this board. Documents provided to the board by the town planning department, town attorney, or other town departments will be considered in exactly the same way as information from the applicant and all other interested parties. I have a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting, which I believe was March 20th,
18.
18th?
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes with just 2 corrections I was hoping to point out, or maybe I'm just nitpicking with words. So I guess I'll wait till the second.
Second.
It just says, let's see, alternate David Whittle and Nora Dissinger were present and appoint to hear all applications, so I just think that's appointed. Is that, it's a small
Oh,
typo.
I missed that typo.
Well, these are the only typos I noticed. And then in our first decision, sort of the conditions of the approval, number 2, this was on groundworks, it just says a Knox box shall be installed with approved by the fire department prior to installation. So I presume that would just be with approval by the fire department.
Yep.
So that's it, just 2 typos that I spotted.
Any objections to the changes?
Nope.
Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
6-0. Okay. Yeah. So everybody took the oath. Brian, was the meeting properly warned?
It was, but there are some additional people who live on Lawton Drive, and I'm not entirely confident all of them were notified. I did get notice from one of the neighbors that he didn't receive a mailed notice, and he should have. So it might be something that should be rewarned.
Okay. I believe that Mr. Hume has requested a continuance to May 20. Oh. Oh, never mind. So should we continue that? Well, we can talk about it.
I think you could take testimony, but I think it's important that we do a second mailing to make sure everybody has their
Okay.
chance to contribute.
All right.
I believe some people have shown up for it tonight, so I think it's worthwhile taking their testimony.
Okay. So, does anybody have any disclosures or conflicts of interest or anything?
Yeah, on the first one, the retreat one, Serenity Wolf is going to be testifying for Stevens and Associates, and Serenity's husband used to work for me. So I don't think this would prejudice me in any way.
Okay.
That's also for the last item tonight as well, and something on that, VHS.
Okay. Okay, so do you think that's a conflict? Okay. I'm going to appoint David Whittle and Laura Dissinger to hear all the applications. They're alternates to the board. Okay, I think that's it.
The one we're going to be just hearing testimony on, that means that we're not going to make any decisions until it's warned again.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, the first case is 2019-10, Brattleboro Retreat. Oh, did I give something for Brattleboro Retreat?
Oh, I have the,
Give it to,
you want to look at these?
I have a copy.
Can you share a copy?
Okay.
I had marked mine up, so.
All the
Okay, can you introduce yourselves and explain your project?
I'm Serenity Wolf. I'm a civil engineer with Stevens and Associates, and I'm a consultant to the client.
I'm John Soul. I'm the Senior Director of Environmental Operations at the Brattleboro Retreat.
And I'm Mark West. I'm a project manager with Stevens and Associates.
So we are here for some additional parking that was installed without a permit at the retreat campus. This was noticed to the client as a violation, that they should have come and received a permit prior to installation. There are 15 parking spaces that were installed, and these parking spaces are internal to the main campus on Anna Marsh Lane and Linden Street. So after meeting with the zoning administrator, we have proposed a plan where we will bring this parking into compliance by addressing stormwater, landscaping, and also providing EV chargers on the campus. So there will be 6 EV chargers installed over in this area, which is not directly adjacent to the added parking. So this is a blow up. The asphalt has been installed, but we are proposing curb cuts and stone dissipators to dissipate the stormwater so that it can go across the grass and receive treatment like a vegetated filter strip. And we will be adding in tree plantings here to meet the landscaping requirements for parking areas.
No, pretty straight.
When did this come up? I'm asking our zoning administrator. Just a rough timeline. 'Cause I feel like we saw these documents
We have
a month ago or?
Yeah,
two, yeah.
it was sent out a couple of months ago, but the board didn't have a quorum, so the matter was rewarned
Okay.
for this month. But the original violation notice, I think, was last year.
Okay.
I think it was updated
Yeah.
last year.
And I guess the question I have, it won't be on that, but your larger map. I mean, in a certain sense, what you've done, or what the retreat has done, is sort of continued the same type of parking, in a
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, I'm familiar with that area from the Strolling of the Heifers events, which will not happen there. And I just had a curious question, and again, it's directed maybe to you and to also our zoning administrator, which is, can you go back to the proposed trees?
Yeah.
It's nice to see some new trees, right? That's part of the landscape requirements. Are there any trees that are similar to that along those sort of already existing parking spots?
So these lighter trees
Yeah.
are existing.
Okay,
So the ones that we've proposed kind of follow in that line.
okay. I was just curious as if we had any say that, can you go back to the big picture again? So if you just follow me, there's that walkway, right?
Which
The
one?
pedestrian walkway that comes in at an angle?
This one?
Yeah, and then that sort of pops you out there at sort of the top of the row of parking. And I just can't, my memory is, I mean, again, we don't need exact number, but there are trees along those.
Yeah.
Yes.
So really what you're doing is bringing the new parking sort of into aesthetic sort of similarity.
Yes.
Okay, cool. If there was any opportunity to throw in more trees, we don't always get a chance. Sometimes we approve people chopping trees down, so it'd be nice to approve maybe some new trees. But it looks like they're in there.
So, exterior lighting, do you have lighting in this area?
There is some existing lighting in this
Pre-existing.
area,
Okay,
but
and
there's
have you,
no new lighting
no
planned.
new lighting?
No.
have you worked with Efficiency Vermont to, update to LED?
We work all the time with Efficiency Vermont. I'm involved with them on every project that we do. And if we do any lighting upgrades out in the parking lot, we would definitely be working with them.
I know that they've been working to, as they replace light fixtures on the campus, convert them to LED.
Mhm.
I had another question.
Sure.
So looking at the map, you've got a lot of parking there. And just in terms of a ratio, the 15 new parking spots compares to how many parking spots total, roughly?
I think we said 350.
350?
Okay,
Yeah, you
so it's
said-
actually a very small portion of your total parking.
It's a very small percentage, yeah.
And then I'm just curious, what was the thought process that said, let's put the EV chargers up in that area?
Ease of utilities. And
Okay.
we're planning hopefully to put make that as opposed to being long-term parking into a shorter-term parking, so that people would have access to that over there. And I don't have enough heavy utility down in this area
Okay.
to actually power all of those.
Okay. It's just, I guess, the thinking in my mind is, you know, the idea that electric cars maybe sort of think of them as a niche or segregated at this moment, but ideally in the future they weren't. So I just had to raise the questions. It seems somewhat that they're being segregated by location, and that if you have so many other parking spots, if sort of more of a long-term look would be to have EV chargers in multiple spaces.
Right,
So
and
I
that would
just
require a
wanted to-
significant infrastructure upgrade to be able to provide the power required for them.
Okay.
We actually recommend that people locate the chargers to minimize the length of new conduit and wire.
Okay.
It's a considerable
Where they
expense.
go out, voltage drop.
Okay.
Right, and our incoming utilities are back from the power plant coming out. So we provide all our power coming from the power plant, and I'm trying to get as close to that as possible. And I've got an open switch
Mhm.
nearby there that can provide adequate power for the EV charging stations.
Okay.
Curious question, do you still cogen?
No, it's, no, we actually, we're running vegetable oil in our boilers now, and we're not running the generators as
Okay.
cogen. It's too expensive, and we don't need an air permit.
Yeah,
So we're not polluting either.
yeah. Okay, just curious.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to,
As for public comment.
oh,
That's right.
I forgot. Anybody have any comment on the project? A motion to approve the,
I don't have it in front of me, so.
hmm?
I make a motion to approve 2019-10,
Yes, the 15 new parking spaces.
15 new
that-
parking spaces.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Do you mind if I leave the lights on?
No. Okay, the next is 2019-11. Miriam Neitzer.
Miranda Nizer.
Request for conditional use approval to keep sheep, goats, and chickens
Yes,
at 3053 Ivy Lane.
yes. And it's specifically, it's 2 goats, 1 sheep, and 12 chickens. No roosters.
What was the numbers again?
So I have 2 sheep,
2 votes.
I'm sorry, 2 goats, 1 sheep, and 12 chickens. Do you need to know the breeds or anything?
It would be lost on me.
Yeah, so, I was just asking because dwarf goats are significantly smaller, so I didn't know if that would make a difference. I don't have dwarf goats, I have no breed.
Okay, I have a number of questions.
Sure,
As I understand, you have an existing shed
yes, ma'am.
that you're gonna use. Okay.
Where the 7-Eleven was.
Do you have a, I understand that most of the property is wetland.
I just found that out. I knew that most of the property that I'm renting was wet, and I assumed it was from like not being drained properly or just neglect over the years. Well, not neglect, but just not being drained properly. But I have recently been told that they're considered wetlands because of the plants growing there and the percentage of oxygen in the water and the ecosystem there. But so the part that we have fenced off right now for the goats and for our dogs is on the lot that the house is on, and it's significantly drier.
It's
So
all grass.
it's grass. And then the second, there's 2 lots, and the second lot is what's mostly marshy, and there's drainage in the back of the property.
It's a class 2 wetland.
Do we have a map that shows the wetlands?
No, because
We don't.
she didn't.
Okay. No, I just meant in terms of our, do we have a wetlands map in this?
No.
So it doesn't exist in this document?
There should be, isn't there no wetlands over there?
I don't think so. There's a Vermont Significant Wetland Inventory, which is kind of a first pass of whether there's wetlands, but it doesn't show all wetlands.
Okay.
And we actually regulate to the conditions on the ground rather than a particular map.
I noticed on the map here that we have that there's parcel 50, 51 and 53. Is that all? I guess I need to know how much of this is where your house is and how much of it is that's fenced off with wetlands.
So I guess the problem with that is I don't know what is considered wetlands and what's not.
Right,
Well, we could probably draw a picture.
but
Yeah,
I'm
would
going
you
by,
like-
yes. I'm going by this right in here. Okay, so you have this, your dog, where your house is in
So
here?
this is actually an old dilapidated barn.
Okay,
What's considered 53, may I use your pen?
yes,
So this is actually a duplex with two separate housings. So this is technically 51 and this is 53 here. This is just a dilapidated barn that's not being used at all. And then this is the two-sided, two-stall shed that we use.
So
okay, so this is
So-
where your house is?
So this is where my house is.
Okay.
And then this is where the
Oh, okay.
wetlands is.
Oh, okay,
So
thank you.
50, you live where 51 is?
Yes, you're, sorry. So where 51 is technically a duplex, where it was an old barn and then it was converted into a two-apartment house. So what's marked as 51 is actually 51 and 53. I don't know why the old barn that's not barely standing is marked as 53. So,
Town maps.
Just like
Yeah.
cross it off.
yeah.
Right.
Mm.
I'll fix it tomorrow.
So what's considered our dog pasture is we also use it as a rotating pasture to help with manure buildup. And we also, when it's raining, we put the goats, there's the shed that's existing there. It's probably, what's the dimension of the shed, do you think? That the goats and chickens are in?
Maybe 10 by 20, something
Yeah.
like that.
And it's so it was there when we moved in. Bob Murray Power said that he thought his daughter built it.
There were animals there before us. There was a hay feeder, and
Yeah.
I don't know what they
Oh,
had
really?
there, but
So it's a two-sided shed, and we keep our chickens in one side, and then the three livestock in the other.
So what provisions have you made to prevent runoff into the whetstone?
So the whetstone is actually uphill from where the livestock is now, and it all drains down. And so the rotating pasture is one thing that we do to help prevent that. And then we also, when it's raining outside, we put the goats into the shed to help with the runoff. And then
there is a stream, running through the property, and it is all running away from the wetland down.
the wet area.
The wet area.
I guess we are calling it wetlands now.
It's marshy. Yeah.
Is the wetland? Can I ask somebody to make a motion for us to go into, oh, wait a minute, are there any comments from anybody?
From the
Any
public.
butters here?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
On the map, it shows future goat expansion.
That's been nixed, because at that point when I had drawn up that map, I didn't realize that it was considered wetlands. I thought it was just ill draining and I actually thought the goats would improve that. If they ate down the goldenrod, we could put seed in there, like lawn seed. Again, not realizing it was a whole ecosystem and just assuming it was ill drained property.
So what kind of fencing keeps the goats in?
So our dog fencing is a 4x4 goat fencing, so the spacing is 4 inches by 4 inches, and it's 4 inches tall with
4 feet tall.
4 feet tall, with T-posts every 5 to 7 feet, and then we're actually the goat fencing we're going to be replacing soon with 1 inch by 2 inch spacing.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, same
4
thing.
feet
Yeah,
high?
4 feet high. But So yeah, we have alpine goats that don't, they're 2 years old, they don't really jump as much, and we haven't really had any problems with them escaping.
I have one other question. Are you anticipating increasing your livestock?
No, I'd like to breed one of my goats, the other one's not really material. So we would have a kid for 3 months, but I would be either selling it or sending it to be processed.
So you'd keep it to 2.
Yeah.
I got a couple questions. So what happens to the goat manure, and then I guess we'll throw in the sheep manure with that.
And
I
the
don't-
chicken manure.
Well, I was gonna ask about that. But I guess first there's are they called ruminants? Because they eat grass?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
I got the language right.
Yeah.
So the ruminant manure is one thing, and then the chicken manure is the other. So maybe just educate us as to how that is handled.
So we have a compost bin
Okay.
that was there pre-existing, and we mix the hay and the compost and any of our food compost in it, and we just turn it periodically, and then we have raised beds that we will line the bottoms with the compost and then put soil on top.
Okay.
So we have a composting system for both the chicken feed, the chicken manure, and the goat and the sheep manure.
And then I'm gonna direct a question to our zoning administrator. I grew up in West Brattleboro, and I don't know who it was, but you could tell when chicken manure was being produced. And I know we have noise ordinances. I don't suppose we have any smell ordinances in our.
No, we do.
We do.
Yeah.
Yep.
And which part of our zoning ordinance would I find that?
I think it's just a public nuisance ordinance, which isn't in the land use regulations.
So section 324 odors. That would be.
That would be it,
That
yeah.
would be it.
But it's also a public nuisance, and it's a condition of any permit when we're doing animals.
Interesting. Okay.
Well, it's definitely a consideration. Luckily, we've only been here for a year, so we haven't had that buildup. But I'm sure that with them producing waste, that there will be a smell. But we plan on
There's
just
no
shoveling
smell
it out
yet.
and mixing it with the hay and whipping it, keeping it down.
Is there, again, it's to educate myself, is there a market for manure in the sense that if you had to, if a condition was for you to remove manure from the site, is that as a possible? How does that work?
I probably wouldn't make a profit, but I could give it away. I have some family and friends in Leiden, Mass, who would use manure like that. If I bagged it up, if I strained it through a strainer and bagged it up, I could probably. I know.
We're also planning on using it for
Yeah,
our gardens.
for ourselves, we're hoping to have more raised beds. But if I needed to, I could give it away. I probably could. I know people sell rabbit manure, so I might be able to sell.
Okay, I honestly don't have the education of agricultural education where I know if the amount of animals you said is gonna produce more manure than you can use in your own gardening.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that I was thinking about is getting a turning compost where I can put it in and turn it, and that would hopefully convert it to soil faster. Because the way it is right now, it's in a pile, and I have to go out there and turn it with a shovel or a pitchfork myself, and it's composting, but if I had something that turned.
And then I guess the other question is, go back to odors. Are there different ways of handling manure that cause different amounts of odor? Could you speak to that?
I'm not exactly sure,
Okay.
actually. Yeah,
Alright.
that's something I would have to do more research
Okay.
on.
Like we
but-
said, it doesn't really smell
At this point.
at this point.
Okay, thank you.
How about noise? I know goats like to be together, and
Yeah.
they're quieter when they're all right.
Yeah, and our sheep thinks she's a goat, so she's very content with her goat friends. I got them all at the same time when they were kids, so I've had them for 2 years now, and they've been together the whole time. When they go into heat, which they'll will in the fall, and they did last fall, they do bleat more than they normally would, but it's not like extremely loud or continuous or anything. I think
It's mostly when they're hungry.
yeah, and when they see us pull up, they're like, oh, hey. I think our 4 dogs make more noise, honestly, than our goats do.
Anybody have any other questions? Anybody, I'd like to, have somebody make a motion to go into deliberative session.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye. So should we tell them what you're doing?
Yes, we're going to go to the planning office and talk about your application.
Okay.
Probably 5 minutes.
Do we need to come as well, or just you guys?
No.
Okay.
You folks get the big room to yourself.
Okay, it's 8:07.
7.
No, it's
7:44.
It's 7:44, and we're back in session. And we discussed your application, and we're going to make a motion to continue your application and to do some other things, get some other information. So,
I move we continue so we can do a site visit. When we visit the property, we just want to see if it really needs a wetlands mitigation program plan for the any manure runoff, and Brian is going to get us a contour map for those people who can't do the site visit.
Okay.
is there
Can
a
I
second?
ask where Ivy Lane is, just for information purposes?
If you're traveling, say you're in West Brattleboro, you turn onto Greenleaf Street,
Yep.
that's just past the former 7-Eleven.
Yeah,
You would go up, not very far.
Not even 75 yards probably. On the left, there's a road that goes in.
And it dead ends, and then the
There's a
sort of the
Bonnie
next
Lane.
left is Country Hill, so it's sort of Ivy Lane's the,
it's below what, is it Country Hill, isn't it first?
Country
Yeah, it's
Hill.
right below there.
It's just below there, okay.
just below Country Hill.
Okay. Yep, yeah, okay, thank you.
I'll second his motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So Brian will be in touch with you, and we will, he'll coordinate a date.
Okay.
And some of us will be coming out, and we will then hear your application again on May 20th.
May 20th. Okay, great. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Skate park.
Skate park, oh boy. I've got tons of documents on that. I know.
Okay, this is
Been changed.
2019-17, the town of Brattleboro, renewal of the permit for the skate park. And okay, can you introduce yourselves and talk about the project?
Okay, I'm Carol Lawton, the Recreation Parks Director.
I'm Elizabeth McLaughlin. I'm a select board member, but I'm here as in my former capacity as a member of the skate park committee.
And I'm Jeff Clark, I'm the chair of the skate park committee.
Okay, so in a brief nutshell, what we're here for this evening is our original permit has expired. That was approved back in 2015, which was our preliminary design for the skate park. In November of 2016, we received our Act 250 amendment for Living Memorial Park for the skate park. And also at that time, we received approval for the stormwater permit. The Recreation and Parks Department has been working with the Basic Committee and with our engineers, design engineer Stantec, to come up with a final design for the skate park at Living Memorial. Unfortunately, we weren't able to raise the money in time to get the shovel in the ground before the permit expires. And that's why we're here this evening, to get the, renew the approval, the permit. I believe that you've got all the documentation submitted to Brian before you this evening.
Yes. So I just had a couple of questions, and then I don't know if other people have questions. How is this gonna be maintained in the winter? Do you expect people to use it?
No, we don't expect people to use it at all. Part of our original permit required that we put snow fence around it in the wintertime. Because as you well know, a Living Memorial is a multi-season facility, so that we will not be maintaining this at all, it won't be open.
Okay, so the snow will just pile up
Pile up.
outside?
Yep.
Okay. Are you going to put any signage
At the,
at the site, or directing people to the skate park, or signage explaining, I'm sure you're gonna have rules?
we definitely will be having, there'll be a couple signs at the skate park, one that will identify rules, one that will identify our sponsors that got us to where we've raised over $240,000, so there'll be that type of signage up there.
And you're not gonna have any additional lighting?
We
So
will-
you don't expect anybody to use it at night?
Correct.
Do you have any questions?
I do. I wasn't on the board when this was approved, so I guess just the simple question is, compared to the plans that were submitted, which were approved by this board in the past, and these plans that I'm looking at now, have there been any changes, really? Or you could sum them up.
Yes.
I don't need like fine detail.
The original approval was based on a civil engineering plan
Okay.
for drainage and stormwater, which basically carved out a pod that the design that you have now fits into.
Okay.
So that the stormwater and the drainage that was the mainstay of the original approval remains, and this new skate park design fits into that smaller area.
Okay. And then I had a question about this term snow fence. What is that?
You know the orange, if you see orange fence,
It's a temporary fencing.
correct, and it
Okay.
just, that will go up during the winter months.
Okay. I would just put it out there that I'm a local and I've lived here many winters, I guess. I'm not old enough to be old, but I'm too old to be young. And some winters, there's not a lot of snow. And if climate trends are the way they are, we say nobody wants to use skate park in February. What if you have a February at 60 degrees? I'm just putting that out there to try and say that may be a positive, it may be a negative. Do you see what I'm saying? It would be a negative if you close the skate park and there's just no snow and it's 60 degrees in February and people would want to skate. And it would be a negative if you were closed it. It would be a positive if there was some way you could open it. I mean, I know living in Memorial Park, right, I think this winter you had that same situation. Like if I want to drive up to the park and see the sunset, I can't because the snow's been, right, you sort of block the road physically with
Correct.
snow.
Correct.
But of course that's dependent on the snow. So I just want to throw that out there as thinking long-term, that if we do get these Februaries or these Januaries where it's 60 degrees and there's no real snow, you know, do you see what I'm saying?
I hear
I don't even have an answer, I just have
Right,
a
I
question.
hear what you're saying, and I think our plan of attack, we're certainly going to live through this once we have this, the park is built, and that, we have the winters. For the most part, I see us blocking off the uphill side so that we're gonna block those skiers from coming down in. I don't see anybody going around and then skiing up into it.
Yeah.
You hear what I'm saying?
I hear you.
So we're not gonna waste our energy and do the whole thing, but we really wanna create that safety zone.
Okay.
Because we don't want people to go sliding down into concrete skate park.
Okay.
And in case you had a question, it's been maybe a year since I walked up there to look at the site, but you cannot see it from the road. I mean,
There's a concern from a budding neighbor on the other side of Maple Street, and being facility manager at Austin School and knowing how interstate noise goes, it goes up, it does, I mean, it goes, the sound goes up, it doesn't go down, so I don't believe they'll hear anything from the skate park, so.
So that letter, though, is part of the record.
Yeah,
It's written testimony from an abutter.
yeah. So-
If I may,
Go ahead.
in preparation of the Act 250 permit, we prepared a noise study. The Act 250 people were concerned about the noise from the dog park. And
Yeah.
so I took a noise meter down to Guilford Street, and we found a dog that would bark on command, all the way up at the top, to measure, and you couldn't hear the dog. You could hear roadway noise. Roadway noise was by far the bigger determinant
Yeah.
of the area.
Well, skateboards, the noise tends to amplify more, so. but I-
Actually, we also did a noise study for this skate park noise when it was on the crawl lot. And the concern was that the noise that people assume from skate park is going over like a crack in the sidewalk, like a divot like that.
Yeah.
But a smoothly made concrete skate park is not in and of itself noisy.
I'm fine with it, I'm just.
Just
yeah.
clarifying.
Yeah,
I mean, there are the motorcycles. I mean, if you want to talk about noise, so, you know,
Well, will be a non-motor.
unless the skateboards have jetpacks on the back.
And the sign may say no jetpacks.
Yeah.
That'll be Carol's choice.
is there public?
is there anybody in the public who has a comment or wants to say anything about this application?
This to do with the skate park. I know
Can
this
can
been
you,
going on
can you
for
go
about-
to the microphone and identify yourself, please?
Oh,
You raised your hand.
my name is Stephen Atkins, I live at 75 Carriage Hill Road. I was just wondering, hasn't the skateboard issue been going on for probably 10 or 15 years?
Skate.
At least,
At least?
if not longer.
Yeah. I think we ought to cut them a break. By this time, some of those kids have kids that would want to be using the skateboard park. I just think you're making it too hard for the kids. You want them to keep busy doing something, and these people are trying to help them get it, but it seems like we're being really picky about a lot of these things. Appreciate the support. And my kids don't even live here anymore, so that was just my point.
Maybe
Can I
if
make-
we build it, they'll come back.
Can I make a joke? That it's possible this is the last hill to climb.
Oh,
They can start
come on.
construction there.
I hope so.
Oh,
Come on.
oh,
Don't quit your day job.
All
as
right.
bad as the ice cream.
Brian?
It's possible that the project might have some minor modifications going forward as they come to final construction. And to expedite the process, it might be useful to allow me to administratively approve minor modifications of the plan.
Makes
So
sense.
moved.
So, yeah.
Second.
Okay. With any minor modifications being approved administratively, is there a motion to approve their application?
I thought that's,
I move.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's weird.
you want to reaffirm your motion?
Yeah, I so move.
I second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving down the list here.
I just wanted to make sure that they knew that it didn't include as a minor modification.
It's okay. Put it this way,
Okay.
when you get the packet and you read it all,
Yeah.
and it totally gets screwed up, and then you try to put it back in order. I mean, like, I was
I
just-
tried to keep it in
I
order.
know, I
I
can't-
tried
I-
to keep it in order.
Okay,
I saw it, I found it, retreat.
2019.
No, that's
17. Oh, no, you're right, I'm sorry.
19.
Yeah,
Yes.
We just did the 17.
yeah.
Okay.
I understand that Mr. Hume has asked for a continuance. Was there anybody here to speak to the application at Laurel Street, 63 Laurel Street? No?
I
Is
move
that kind of a motion to continue?
I move we continue it till the next meeting,
May
Second.
20th.
May 20th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You took my minutes.
All right,
Just
sorry.
give me a hard time.
What do we got, 2019, 21?
Continue.
Yeah.
Number 21.
So now we're at
No, you're
2019-21.
gonna continue it because there's a neighbor who wants to.
Notify.
You can't deliberate, yes.
So we're gonna take testimony and then
Yes.
we will, continue.
Some gentleman walked in, didn't get sworn in, I don't know if he was gonna speak or not.
Oh,
In the back. In the back.
Do you want me to ask?
You might wanna
no,
remind them.
is
Remind
somebody just came, you just came in?
them Earlier.
Somebody
The
just
gentleman
came in earlier?
earlier, has to be signed.
Did you get sworn? Are you
Oh,
planning
no,
to,
I did not get sworn
are
in.
you planning to speak?
I'd like the opportunity, I guess, if I
Yeah,
can.
we can do that then.
Okay. Where's my crib sheet? Okay, just raise your right hand. I hereby affirm that the evidence I give in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth, under the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
All right, this is Mr. Lackey.
Yeah.
For minor subdivision approval on Lawton Drive. Do you want to tell us about your project?
Well, it's fairly simple. I'm applying for Gary Russell in regards to a one-lot subdivision on Lawton Drive, and I believe it meets all the zoning requirements.
I'm a little confused. You're Brad Lackey?
I'm Brad Lackey, yes.
You're the one that's
Hi.
trying to get the lot that's 0.46.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm applying.
You need to come to the microphone.
Okay.
And can you,
Want me to give my name again? or-
Yes.
yes,
Okay,
And you just, I believe you will address Maya here.
yes.
okay,
You don't address him,
okay.
address the board.
Okay, my name is Stephen Atkins, I live at 75 Carriage Hill Road in Brattleboro. Probably 5 or 6 weeks ago, on a Sunday at 3 o'clock, someone knocked on my front door, and I thought they said they were Brad Lackey. There was the man was a little shorter than I am, and I think he was deaf, he had a hearing aid, and he had a hard time hearing, and he had a lady with him. And they were talking about this parcel that he's talking about, the 0.46 acres, and it's kind of an odd shape, and they wanted to know if they could get some of my land to make the lot more square. And I told them I wasn't interested in, giving up any of my land or selling anything. So that's why I'm confused. This guy said his name was Brad Lackey, because I believe that was the name that the person told me they were.
So I believe the person you were talking about is the prospective buyer. His first name is Mark, and I don't recall his second name, but he does have a hearing impediment, I believe.
Okay. Unless I misunderstood him, but I hear you were saying Brad Lackey, that was the name I remember.
No, it sounds like Mark.
Okay.
I'm not sure his last name either.
So you're trying to, the big lot is going to be divided into two. There's an 8.8 acres and that's 0.46. You have nothing to do with the 8.8.
The 8.8 is what is remaining of the
Okay,
parcel.
can you just hold your questions until the board has had a chance?
Okay,
Now that you know who you're talking to?
okay.
Okay. You have a question?
No, he wasn't finished, I don't think, with this.
You weren't finished?
No, I think I was finished,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Okay, do you know if the water and sewer in this subdivision is public? The city of Brattleboro?
I'm not sure where the public work starts and private ends there. I have talked with the public works department, and they said that connection, they have capacity for connection for a 3-bedroom home.
Okay, but the town, Lawton Drive is private.
Right.
I would like to know that if the capacity is there for water and sewer, that's, do you have anything written on that? From Public Works? Or?
Yeah.
Which one of these is Lawton?
Okay, that's one, Josh.
Where? This thing? I think somewhere around here is 30, 40 miles difference. Okay.
All right, give it to Mike. Yes, the street loops back around. He's just asking me.
Yeah,
where
the
it is, and
location.
I'm showing him how the street
There's
loops
the
around.
church that's there. That's
yeah.
kind of like where the road goes from 40 miles an hour to 30 miles an hour, almost like at the bottom of that.
Then Lawton Drive, this is Lawton Drive right here, basically.
Oh, okay.
Comes off and then loops back in. I had a friend who lived right here, so that's how I know.
Okay. That's wrong.
So is this a copy or is this your own
That's
copy?
my only copy.
I'll just take a photo of it for the record.
So you're gonna do a photo?
There's the photo. Can I look at that? Just curious.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Okay.
You figured out where it is? So altogether, this is what, 12 acres?
Well, see,
8.
just to be,
Almost 9.
just because the
There
existing
you
parcel is
go.
8.8 acres, is that how we read this? Or that's what will remain
Yeah.
if this subdivision is approved?
I tried to not have the roadway portion part of the acreage of the parcel, only because it's roadway. But it is, at the moment, all one parcel.
Okay.
I had the acreage that is indicated to be Lawton Drive on tax maps is 1.4 acres.
There's a parcel ID number that 0020011.0. Now, is that not part of?
That might be Spino's.
Yeah,
Oh, the closer
that's-
map.
Yeah,
Am I imagining that that parcel is completely enclosed by the other parcel?
it is.
Here, I'll pull it
And it's actually,
So they must have just a right of way to use Lawton Drive.
they do, Spano, and I believe lot 16.
Okay, yeah, I'm looking at the closer up
The
there.
full, Gardner and Full.
Okay. So the drive is part of this greater parcel.
It
And these two,
accesses those two houses.
and those two lots have a right of way so they can access their
Right.
properties.
Right.
Okay. And so it would be in a sense, if this lot 17 is approved, in a sense, it's locked into that same thing, but presumably the right of way for access
Correct.
on that lot and drive.
Yes.
Okay.
Anybody have any other questions? Oh, let's see, I was confused. This is Laurel Drive.
Yeah, yeah, that's, and then if you look on the sort of zoomed in, you can sort of
Yeah.
see, there's Lawton Drive as well.
See, this is all carried, so
Yeah,
But that's all, part of, this is all 1 acre, right here, right? All these lots, 16,
It's not here.
15, 17, 11.
yeah. Well, those lots, 11, 37, 36, 35, those properties are all accessed from Carriage Hill, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Right, I'm saying though, the total amount of acreage for all these lots is 1? The whole plan, the 18, you've got 8 acres over here that nothing's gonna happen on.
Yeah.
What is the total acreage of the whole thing?
What do you mean the whole thing?
Before the subdivision, is that what you're?
Yes, you've got this right here. Is not this. Where does this come in? Is this the tail end of the property? How much
The
is it?
1.4 acres is the land Lawton labeled as Lawton Drive.
Okay, all of that
50.
is 1.4 acres?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I was wondering.
So, you were saying, or Brian brought it up, our plan is to hear this, but we're gonna be continuing it because there's concern that some abutters were not notified?
Yeah, one of the abutters contacted me and told me that he hadn't received a letter, so I don't know why that was. And I
Okay.
hadn't received a return letter.
Okay.
So I think there might have been a clerical error where we didn't warn everybody who should have been.
Okay.
So, somebody is planning to build on this lot once it's subdivided.
Correct.
And, they will have certain requirements. For instance, they have to have a stormwater plan, they have to have, the proper frontage, and they have to have plantings along the road, and a landscape plan. And they will, are they gonna have, do you know anything about what's gonna be built there? Is it going to be energy efficient home, are they gonna have a heat pump, are they gonna, do you know anything about the house
I don't
planned?
believe they've gotten that far with their plans. No, they haven't even purchased the property yet, so.
It's right there. Where is it? This is it. Yeah, that's what I thought. So it all comes
Does
under
anybody in the
residential.
public wanna speak to this project?
Residential.
The gentleman in the front here.
Hi, I am Harry Heilman of 109 Lawton Drive. I've been there for 42 years. And I just wanted to address a few of the things that I've seen. I'm the one of the two people, adjacent landowners, who were not notified by letter as required by 462. And I'm not asking that we stop these proceedings or anything. I was able to get what was written and proposed. I found out about this on Friday afternoon, and Brian discussed with him, and some of the things that I had a concern with, as written in the plan, was section D on the validation of traffic. As it is written there, the two items say the access will be built in conformance with town standards. A long-term plan is to get residents of Lawton Drive to pay a yearly fee for road maintenance and improvements and eventually save enough for paving the road. The residents there have no such plan and never discussed it. And we are not receptive to that. The short-term plan is to sell the remaining land, lot 18, which is the 8.8 acres, and use the proceeds to improve the road to town specs and have the town take it over. Okay, this was supposed to be done to bring the road up to specs, and it's been discussed many times, and once recently back in minutes 20,003.00 on 11/23/93, when 119 Lawton Drive, where Clayton Russell put a trailer for his son years ago, it was brought up that the road was in such bad shape that we couldn't take any more additions of property and traffic to the road, and that access would have to come in from Edward Heights. The town took exception to that and requested we have a town meeting, not a town meeting, but a neighborhood meeting with Jerry Remillard at the time and other people, and the decision, we accepted the town's request to allow access to 119 Lawton Drive. That's lot 10.3, I think, on your map there. That borders with Edward Heights Road. And we all agreed it would be okay so that they wouldn't have the risk of bringing traffic in off of Edward Heights Hill in winter. And at that time, there's the whole minutes from that meeting. And one was that the road would be brought up, and they had an estimate at that time. It said the water and sewage were up to spec, so it was a matter of bringing gravel in and paving it, getting it ready and paving it. And that, as a result of that meeting, it was determined that two vacant lots that may be developed if the road is upgraded. And one of that was lot 117, where Jerry Remillard recommended, since Clayton and Russell did not have the money to do that at the time, and that lot would be sold. Lot 17 would be subdivided, and then another lot would be subdivided to get the money to bring the road up. So my concern is, we've been fighting this for 42 years with the town and trying to get the road. The road is in such bad shape. I have pictures of all parts of it, including right in front of lot 17 to show how the water is flowing for drainage and wastewater. And since then, they also allowed John McKay to build a little shack and put an extension on it. And that dug up the whole corner there of Lawton Drive and it's nothing but a big mud hole. I have pictures of that. And so what's been happening in all these years is all these lots were sold off, and nothing was ever done with the road as required. They did bring the water and sewage up, and the town was happy with that. And Jerry was gonna get this subdivision and to pay for the road as well as another lot so that it could be brought up and the town could take it over. Now, I don't know that there's ever been a study. We've already added 2 extra people on the water and sewage. Well, the 119 has its own water line, but the sewage goes into the line for the development. Then the McKay property there that he rents out, that they put water and sewage into the Lawton Drive. And I'm not sure how much more it can take, and where is the 8.8 that they propose in here is selling, where is access is gonna come from? Is it coming off of Marlboro Road, or is it coming through Lawton Drive, or both? And before any further development gets done, this all needs to be fixed and set up, because after 42 years, longer, I've been here 42 years and we've been fighting. And we need to know who's responsible for sewage, for all the water lines, all the sewer lines. We've had failures of the water lines twice in the last couple of years. 3 of us were affected by the last one, where we were out of water, low water pressure for a month and a half, down to 20 pounds instead of the 100, and we lost it for 3 days. And we had to get someone in to dig it up, and the town, we were very happy with the town coming to our rescue. They did a wonderful job, the town water department. And one other part that I had a question on is, what is Lawton Drive is the main road coming in and going through the circle. There's a whole proposal in there for right now, and I have pictures and stuff of what the town is proposing to take the circle out and put like a Y in. And the town has drawings of that. And that goes right in the center of 10.1, which there is a circle. None of the roads were put in the right place when they were originally built. So the maps, the town maps aren't quite exactly right either. But you have a town ordinance under driveways, and it says on the proposal here, it says the driveway for the property, lot 17, is to be at the south end, and the home is to be built at the north end next to Spino's. And your ordinance says that you can't have a driveway within 50 feet of an intersection. And the intersection of the access road to lot 17 and eventually lot 18 on the other side of Spino, okay, if you put 15 feet, it can't be at the south, 50 feet rather, for the minimum distance between the driveway and intersection. It can't be as stated there. To the south end of the property. Where lot 17 isn't really Lawton Drive. It's an access for Spino's, it's an access road, and for what used to be Webster's.
Could I ask a question to anyone who can answer? Is the term Lawton Drive being applied, is there, coming off of Marlboro Avenue, Route 9?
Love Edward Heights.
That's Edward Heights.
That's the name of the
That goes
road,
up to the
and
top
that's a town
of the
road.
hill where all the mailboxes are, and then Lawton Drive starts
So that's right here?
On the right.
and goes about 150 to 200 yards, makes a right.
So Lawton Drive exists sort of as a backward L? Is that a way to look at it?
Yes, and
Is
it
this
goes
one right
into a
here?
circle.
Like this?
And then the road where lot 17 is being proposed is on an access road that was a right-of-way into Spino's. It used to be Peril prior to Spino,
Okay.
and Walt Webster's.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I thought. And so we're looking, sorry, I'm just orienting myself with the map. So that's the sort of bottom part of the reverse L.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, from my understanding is that there is
This is how
a
you
separate
visualize
water
that.
line coming off the 6-inch main that supplies Spino's. And I don't know if they would propose to tap into that or what. But then, for off the 8-inch water line, the main water line, there's another one that serves what used to be Webster's, and they have their own cast iron line off of that, and then it's copper down to my place, to the manhole there, and then it goes all the way down. They have another section in there down to Edward Heights, which prevents dead ending and mud and sill buildup. And that line has broken already several times, and they've had to repair it, and twice now up by my end in the circle there. So in other words, you know, has anything, any kind of analysis or survey been made that says that the lines as they exist under the original plan can take additional service?
We have a letter from the Public Works Department that indicates that they can build on lot 17 and hook up to the line.
Do you mind if I ask this gentleman where he would be located on this map?
No.
You don't mind?
No, that's good.
I just try to orient where people are located.
Sure.
So on this map, roughly where would your property be?
You need to move closer to the mic.
Oh,
and-
yeah, we should do this in front of the mic. I just wanted to come to you instead of making you.
Right. I haven't seen this one before.
Okay, so, you know, I see that site, so this is, see where we're looking?
Where's-
And that would be Lawton
It is.
Drive.
The map is
You-
all.
Would you be
Yeah.
over here on Lawton Drive?
Well, the reason is
This
because
doesn't
it
make
doesn't
it-
show
I,
the drive, so you don't orient it.
Okay, lot 17, right?
Okay.
That's
We're
lot
sort of-
17.
I can show you on my map.
Oh, okay. Do you have one?
Yeah.
It goes here, okay. Not-
I'd like to have one of those big maps, they make it a lot easier to show you.
Oh, you have a big map?
No, I have, but
You got a big
This is a
map.
map of
Old house, house here is original, so.
Where would I
Can you,
orient you?
can you bring this
Yeah.
over here
Yeah.
Okay.
so that we can,
We
let
can bring
him
it, you wanna
finish
bring it
and
up front?
then,
We
then
should
you
do one.
can show it.
Here's what I drew.
Right.
See this?
This one
We
right
can
here
show you one.
is the
I
same
can
as
see.
this one,
See it,
Yeah.
lot 17.
Yeah.
Now what they're gonna build on.
This is the Edward Heights here. Okay, that's Edward Heights.
Right. So these are owned by other people.
Yeah.
Right.
And then this is Lawton Drive.
Okay.
Right here.
Okay, so this is the proposed subdivision.
Right in
This is
here,
the
yeah.
proposed right
Okay,
there.
okay.
My property is, there's 10 point,
Is it this one?
right here,
Right there. Oh,
number
I
8.
see. So Edward Heights comes in like this, and then Lawton currently does this. And you had mentioned the circle, the town has proposed something like a lot.
Yeah, they want to come in here, and instead of having the circle around, they want to come in here on, and then just make it,
No, it's
that it
not.
goes to 10.2 and goes up this way to this gentleman's number 5. I am right here, number 8. And I also now own 10.3 right there. And then this part that you see of 10.2.
Okay. And then do you access your property from here?
No.
You access it
I
from
come
here?
around through the circle.
Okay.
And this is that, where I just gave right away, when I bought this extra piece, all the way over to here, I gave right away for the property under 10.2, so that you do it safely instead of coming off of Ever Heights.
I appreciate being able to visualize that.
I'll bring this back to you in a minute. I want to explain to the people watching at home that we've just had an explanation of how Edward Heights meets Lawton Drive and how Lawton has a part that's a circle. So there's a perpendicular part and then there's a circular part of Lawton Drive. I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody at home or anybody interested, but that's the way it is, yeah.
Brian?
Oh, yeah, Brian should take a picture.
The planning commission a copy
Yep, will do.
of the minutes and what was agreed to back in '93 with this whole situation with the road and
Okay. We can make that part of the record. Does anybody else want to speak? And then we'll
Brian,
give
take
you
a picture
chance
of
to
this,
talk.
so you can keep that, thank you.
I'm a little confused about the 0.46 acre and the part of the driveway that goes up to Spino's. Is that, they just have a right of way through there? Go up to their driveway?
Spino and I believe lot 16
Okay. So,
across the road.
so the part that is only going to be 0.46 for what you're trying to sell to the other?
Just the proposed lot.
Yeah, proposed lot. Where, how close to the property line would you want to be putting the driveway on the side closest to the Russells? Mrs. Russell's property.
Well, it's yet to be determined.
See, I own lot 37,
Yeah,
and that's the one where there's an odd little jig in there at the end
right.
where instead of a pin at the end, it was an 18-inch pine tree back in 1976. Now that pine tree is this big around. It's,
Yep.
I don't know if you consider that all mine or somebody else's, but I would have done
Someone else's, they can pay for it.
Yeah, but if it falls on it, and they have had a house there, they're gonna say, oh, that's mine, so. That would be one question. Who's, the pine tree, whose property that is considered, when there's no item there. And the thing of it is, how close you get to that tree when you're driving, putting in the driveway. Pine trees don't have roots, they go very, very deep. They go out, I wouldn't want to see that tree fall over.
Yeah, I wouldn't anticipate the drive being close to that tree. More than likely, the house would be closer to it.
How close
But
to a
there's
property
setback.
line can a driveway be?
There's no setback requirement.
Yeah, it can be on the property line.
Oh. So that's,
Whose property line? Steve?
okay, well, if my tree is right here, you could drive, you could put something right here. We're talking a pine tree it's just big around right now.
You could, it wouldn't be very safe.
Brian, if the board gave approval for something, could we put conditions on driveway location, or are we limited by what's in the zoning?
I think it's poor practice because it's likely to get lost and just create a problem in the future.
Okay.
People don't see it until a driveway is actually built. In this case, the lot is, some areas of the lot are actually fairly steep, so I think that would dictate having a driveway that's away from the boundary line.
Okay. But you're saying it's sort of, the zoning gives the leeway for a person owning a property to put their driveway right up to the edge of their property line?
It does, but that's more typical of errors with small lots, and this is a larger lot.
Okay. What, in terms of me thinking of residential neighborhoods in Brattleboro, you said 0.46 acres wouldn't be considered a small lot. What would I imagine a small lot to be in terms of size?
Places like Cedar Street,
Okay,
they'd be more like 0.14.
okay. So this particular residential neighborhood does have larger lots than what you'll find in the sort of tree streets of Brattleboro.
Right, so this is more typical of the kind of post-war suburban subdivisions.
Okay. I didn't mean to interrupt here.
I think my lot is one of three on Carriage Hill that's 0.81 acres, is one of the three biggest, as far as I know. But this tree is on the farthest away from the road, Carriage Hill Road. It's on the back of my property, so I didn't ever think I would have any problem worrying about somebody building behind me or possibly putting a driveway in there. Not that it's gonna really bother me, I just worry about maybe that tree falling on something sometime. All it could do now is fall on the ground or fall on my property, but if there's a house in there and a driveway, that changes it a little bit, so. And if they can put it any way they want, what does that do much to my liability? So, they'll say, well, it's on your property, so it fell on my house, that's what I'm looking at. I'm not against anybody building out there, I'm not trying to stop any of that, I'm just thinking of the worst case scenario in this case. So, but that's just my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
One more thing, I would like to allow you to make a picture of the proposed change to Lawton Drive.
Brian's gonna take a picture. Okay. I just like to look sitting at this desk.
So do you have any further comments or anything?
Yeah, I can respond to the large pine tree corner. I did have a discussion with the potential buyer about that tree and if it was going to be a hazard in the future. He could talk with the abutting landowner to possibly get it cut down, and I could replace it with an actual corner pin and relieve any liability for neighbors and whatnot. So I did.
There is.
Another comment? Pam?
Yes.
Yeah, yes, well, there are certain covenants on that Ames Brook development, which Carriage Hill is part of, where originally there was a 30-year set of rules, and then after that, every 10 years, if somebody wants to bring to them, they must have to have, maybe the people have to have a vote on it, but selling off part of that lot could be breaking part of those covenants. So, I don't know if it is or isn't, but I don't want to, if something came to that and I did that and find out that I broke a covenant, I'm in trouble and the other person's scot-free.
Are these Carriage Hill covenants?
Yes, the Ames Brook Development Covenant, it's an area.
Ames Brook is Carriage Hill?
Yeah, that's part of it.
Okay. Because I was like Lawton Drive, these are two
Okay,
separate.
can I show you something? I've been up there 30 years, but that's not used. The Ames Brook development, what we're talking about, I'm 30,
Yeah, you're over here.
Yeah,
Yeah, I better take a picture of this one.
right in. Right there.
Yeah,
Lot 37.
yeah, and that's your pine tree right there.
Well, it's basically.
More or less, but
Well,
anyways.
actually, there is, this is my different name because I.
Yeah.
That, right there, they're saying, it was an 18-inch pin, that's a tree, I can show you pictures
Okay.
on my phone.
Oh, I'm fine, no, I'm fine with it, I understand it.
And
But my only thing is, like, these are two different developments. That's all I'm going with, that's all. Yeah.
Okay.
And I know, because here, okay, Edward Heights, and where the hell's Lawton Drive here?
Okay, I'm gonna Lawton Drive, let's see, where's my
37.
Yeah, so it's,
It's not there.
Lawton Drive is up behind, is behind my house,
Yeah,
so it's,
you're on Carriage Hill, these are Carriage Hill houses up here,
yeah.
back here, there.
Okay, there's this picture
Yeah.
here, yeah. Lawton Drive is.
I know you're right here, so, and I know this is Carriage Hill up
Yeah,
here.
Right.
So I'm good with that.
Brian, take a picture of that.
Okay, because Lawton Drive comes up.
Yeah, Brian, just take a picture.
Yeah.
Okay.
Edward Heights is over here, Lawton Drive breaks up.
Here was the
Comes up this
map that
way,
he
because the
referred
light's
to.
shining, but then it comes up, takes a 90 here, and then goes over here, that circle over here.
Okay. All right. Is this yours?
Name's Phyllis.
Okay.
Mine?
She's, the lady still would like to say something.
I'm just trying to shuffle my papers. Hi, my name is Carol Franco, and I live on lot 36, 81 Carriage Hill Road. We finished building the house in March of 1975 when we moved in. And we were having quite a bit of a problem with the former people that owned the house next to us, which is lot 37, not my neighbor now. So we had Mr. Shumway resurvey the boundary markers, and I wanted to ask Mr. Bradley, or Nadine?
Brad is fine.
Brad, what has been done on the law, on that property since May of 1976? Because I had a terrible time with the Russell boy in 76. His children, or maybe it was the Russell children themselves, who are now adults, were cutting down trees on my property. And I confronted them and said, you know, you shouldn't be out here cutting these trees, they don't belong to you. And the father came out and said, this is my map. And I said, but you don't have a seal on your map. And this is my map, and I have a seal. So I wanted to know what you have done, or anyone else, fixing that problem.
Well, I'm not quite sure and understand
Do you
the
wanna see this?
problem. Is there a,
I think she's talking about the boundary line, the lot line between her lot and lot 18.
Right.
I don't know what lot number is behind.
She's on 18 and 37.
well, I surveyed the
She's in the middle.
the iron pipes that were back there. Actually, one's aluminum and the other one's iron, and the tree, and everything fits pretty consistently with both Clayton Russell's maps that he has on file in the town. 1986 is one of the major ones here.
Is that a renewal?
And Carriage Ames Development has a subdivision map on file also, and it was also consistent with that.
We're talking about wire fencing that's caught around the big tree there. And the tree itself, and he said to me, you don't own that tree, you only own the bark. On one side. Oh, sorry. So I don't know, but Mr. Shumway, he said these pins are in there to
You
stay.
need to talk to the board.
You want me to come up there?
No, you need to face
Oh, okay.
us and talk to us. You don't talk to him.
Okay, so I want to know, is Edward Heights going to be building on my property? That's what I want to know. And has anything been surveyed since May of 1976 to correct their part? Because their map is incorrect. It was not with a seal.
Okay, well, see, I don't know that this is, these maps that you provided, Mr. Lackey, are maps that you surveyed, is that correct?
Right, preliminary maps.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I think you, before this goes anyplace, you need to look at that line, the boundary line between her property, lot 36, and lot 18.
I have. And like I said, I don't, there's no inconsistency between the Ames development maps and.
Can I have a copy of that? The map you surveyed?
Well, there's no final map complete yet. It was my understanding the final map is at the next meeting, submitted at the next meeting. So, although I do have pretty much a final one done. If you want one at the next meeting, I can provide it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Or a much more complete one, I
Yes.
should say.
Could I just ask a point of clarification? This is the map that I'm referencing. The property line that I think you're referring to, it sort of abuts 35, 36, and 37, is that correct?
I'm 36.
Yeah.
It abuts 37 and 35.
Okay, good, I just want to be sure.
And my surveyor put those pipes in because there was like a tree with a piece of ribbon hanging. And then when those trees grew or they broke, there was no boundaries.
Well,
So
it's my understanding that when Mr. Lackey surveyed, that he found those pipes, is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
All of
And as far as the tree, I'm not aware of what tree you're talking about.
well, there's a tree from the far right pin, the pin on the far right and my neighbor's left. Perhaps, maybe 20 feet, there would be a humongous tree,
So,
a humongous tree.
just so I have it straight, you're just talking about a tree that's was on the, or near the property line, and you and Mr. Russell were in
I wasn't
disagreement of
concerned
where.
about the tree, I was concerned about the boundary markers, about the land that he
Right.
said was his, and it was ours, my late husband and myself.
Right.
He was saying, my boundary marker is the rolled fence and barbed wire, and it wasn't.
Well, if we can ask Mr. Lackey to make sure that he has found the right pins when he does his final surveying. Okay, that's,
Yeah, because Mr. Shumway did the pins further up on Carriage Hill with a 6x6 concrete in the ground or whatever those markers are for the state, and measured the boundary to be absolutely sure. And he also cemented my boundary markers in the front,
Well,
so
this-
if you have a problem, you can start from there.
The subdivision of lot 17, though, is not going to abut your property line with lot 18.
Maybe not, but what about the road that they're talking about putting in there? A road in a drive to go in. What about that? How
The
far?
driveway is gonna be off Lawton Road. I
Is it?
understand.
Correct.
Okay, so nothing is coming, joining lots 35, 36, and 37,
36 and 35.
or 37.
Well,
Well, 37 abuts lot 17.
would it be appropriate for me to share the map with her?
Sure, if you want, although I'm not sure we're getting any place with this testimony. But do you understand what I'm saying?
I don't
Yeah.
understand what you're saying, because I want a copy of that map that he's saying he surveyed.
Well,
This is a preliminary survey map, so you wouldn't say that this isn't the final.
That's correct.
Right.
Okay. This is what we're using as a reference for the discussion. And
May I
I
come
thought,
over there?
or I could bring it to you if you'd like.
Okay.
You've got the microphone.
Yeah.
I have no issue meeting at some point and out in the, at the parcel
At the
and,
parcel.
yeah, clarifying
That's what I was gonna ask you.
property corners with,
Yeah.
with their-
I made the suggestion, you can experiment and compare.
Well, they're gonna meet.
But this one here had all,
Ian?
what do you call it?
Yeah.
Mr. Lackey has just suggested
Okay.
that to end this discussion for a while, for the time being,
Yeah.
that he will meet with the abutters, both of the abutters, in lot 37 and lot 36, and lot 35 if they want to join, and go out there and he can show you what he did, and he can share with you his map. All right, so you can show him where you think the boundary line is, and he can show you what he surveyed, okay?
Right, and if I think it's incorrect, I'll probably ask Mr. Shumway or someone to come back out and redo it,
That's fine.
all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that wants to comment on this project? Yes.
My name is Lee McColgan. I live at 127 Lawton Drive. I promise I'll be brief. So one of the
Which lot is that? Which lot number?
it might not even be on your map. It would be sort of across the circle from the proposed
Okay,
lot. Neighbor to Harry, who just talked a little while before. So one of the concerns that we have amongst the neighborhood is just the impact on the infrastructure that's in place for this neighborhood. So the road, the water line, and the sewer. So I know a question was asked before about whether this was public water and sewer. My understanding is it's not, because when we had a break, I think it was in September timeframe, the water department couldn't fix it. We had to dig it up ourselves, and then eventually they did come to the rescue and fix the line. So the concerns that most of us have is during that process we realized how subpar the materials are that are used in that water line, to the point that the water department, I think they failed to splice like 3 times before they finally got one to hold, because the pipe itself has deteriorated so much that it was just crumbling in their hands. So our concern is that the addition of more properties and more water lines coming off there, we're going to have more of these issues. And as Harry was hinting to before, there's been a lot of promises over the years that have gone unfulfilled, and instead we're just adding more burden to these things. And so I think a lot of us are concerned about the impact of that. Not so much concerned about the lot, but more on the infrastructure. The second example I'll give is there was a lot that was developed, I think 2 years ago, by John McKay there was no oversight in tying in of that property into the water line. There was, I think, basically topsoil was used to fill on top of the water line that was run to connect to the property. And that was so poor that it caved in under, driving, that it crushed another neighbor's line, that they then had to dig it up again, fix that neighbor's line, and refill. And so I worry that we're gonna be in this constant cycle of our road is falling apart, the pipes are falling apart, and they continue to sell lots on top of that infrastructure, but never improving it. So I think that's partly where Harry was coming from. I know there's a number of other neighbors that aren't here today. And there were a number of us, myself included, that did not get the letter to come here today, but luckily enough of us talked. So I think that's the biggest concern from the Lawton Drive perspective of things. So, thank you.
Thank you. So, because this was not, the letters did not reach everybody, and some of you came anyway, but some people didn't. I think the zoning administrator's advice is that we rewarn this and continue the hearing until May 20th.
Also, shouldn't we get,
And you'll have a final drawing?
nothing else, at least the survey?
Yeah, no, do you want a stamped, signed, final? Yeah, okay. That's what you'll have.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't want to be able to dive in lane anyway. And we're choosing to go.
You can make that motion.
I'll make the motion that we continue this, and that members of the board who can, we could make a site visit, ideally concurrent with us going to Ivy Lane. I mean, it's not that far down the road. And then the condition that he will, at the continued hearing, he will
Have a final.
have the final, give me the words here, final
Survey.
survey. Thank you.
Survey that's
So moved.
sealed. No, he's moving.
Yeah, I'm moving it.
Okay, I second it, I second it. Need some sleep.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we'll see you next month.
Okay, thank you.
We'll come out, look around before then.
Okay.
All right.
Can we drive on a public drive? Would we need permission? Private drive.
I wouldn't worry about it.
It's, okay.
All the zoning things that
Just you,
we have
just you.
access to.
Yeah, Max.
This is one of the perks of being a zoning board. I mean,
No, it's in there.
Oh, it is, okay.
Yeah. All right, all right.
You learn something new every day.
2019-27, Wyndham Southeast Supervisory Union. Request for site plan and local 250 for a new maintenance building at 131 Fairground Road. Is that right?
That is correct.
Maintenance building?
Oops, I've lost this. At the skateboard park.
That doesn't look like a skateboard.
No. Okay, want to talk to us about the project?
Could I ask one question and I'll get out of here? Oh,
Do you mind using the microphone, because then the camera can pick it up?
is the board gonna go up to Carriage to Lawton Drive on before May 20th? someday?
Yes, we're planning to do a site visit.
Yeah.
That's what that motion was.
Okay, are you gonna go to the lot we're talking about with
Yes.
the Blackie?
Yes.
Could you let myself and my neighbor know so we could be involved in that?
Brian will let you know what day it is. Can you do that, Brian?
Yeah, I suggest we do everything on the 20th before the meeting.
So it's fresh in our minds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What day is the 20th on?
It's
It'd be
Monday.
a Monday.
Monday, okay.
And it's clear that any discussion at the site site visit doesn't have any bearing on it. It's only in the record if it happens here at this public meeting, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, this is just for information.
But we do take it though.
Oh, you do?
Oh, you know.
Thank you.
Okay. I've never done a site visit. I haven't been on the board long enough. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm Serenity Wolf, I'm a civil engineer with Stevens and Associates, and I'm a consultant to the applicant.
I'm Robert Clark, the facility manager at BUHS.
Thank you for being patient.
My pleasure. So this project is, this is the BUHS campus, and this project is proposing to add a new maintenance building that's adjacent to Tenny Grandstand and DPW's building. This is a maintenance building that was originally permitted and proposed as part of the high school renovation that was done 2003
to 2006.
to 2006. It was included in the local zoning in the Act 250 at that point, but was value engineered out of the project and not constructed at that time. And the school is coming back to pursue permitting that to build that now. So this is a close-up on this area. This is Fairground Road. This is the grandstand right here. This is the proposed location of the maintenance building, and this is the existing DPW building. The proposed building is smaller than the building that was previously proposed in this location. As the prior project, there was a stormwater permit done, so there was a stormwater design and permit done, and this is currently included in that stormwater permit. So we'll be renewing that using that stormwater permit to cover the stormwater runoff from that and installing the infrastructure associated with that permit. We will be adjusting this road to allow access into this proposed maintenance garage, and we will be replacing some cutting that will need to happen here to relocate the fence to allow connections to water and sewer utilities. This is an Act 250 project, so it will be required to comply with the CBES stretch energy guidelines.
What are those energy guidelines called?
CBES, C-B-E-S,
That stands for something, I presume?
commercial
Building energy standards.
energy standards, yes.
And this is a state standard?
So, can you point out again where the access road is gonna be?
So there's an existing access road here, kind of in
Right.
a light gray, and we will be adding small extensions to that to allow maneuvering around and then into the proposed maintenance garage.
Okay, so it's not gonna come off Fairground or anything like that? It's
No.
all internal access?
Yes, ma'am.
Could, oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Can you go back to that big picture map?
Sure.
And so, I'm just trying to understand the road that Maya asked about. So if I entered, let's say I'm going to see a football game, right? Well, I'd probably park over there, but, so you'd come in, my understanding is your maintenance vehicles then,
Come into the east lot.
yeah, so if you could just draw the path that that vehicle would take, let's say. So it does, you've basically got a roadway
That
for your
road was
internal.
actually the original Fairground horse track.
Okay.
That's what's left of it.
Okay. So you have this existing internal roadway, and you're
Correct.
essentially just sort of putting this maintenance building at the end of that existing roadway.
Off to the side so we don't block it.
Okay. And then, maybe I overlooked the documents, there's a lovely picture. I don't know what you call that,
It's an elevation.
okay. Doesn't look elevated, but- What are the materials, I'm just curious, like what's the roof structure, what's the siding?
So they're still working on deciding the exact detailing of the building.
Okay.
At this point, it's proposed to be a type 5B, which is a non-combustible, excuse me, I need to check. 5B
unprotected wood and are exploring the option of a metal building as an alternate. They need to do cost estimating to basically determine, they need to look at it from a cost perspective as well as an energy efficiency perspective.
And the roofing would be presumably a metal roof, or? Okay. And then this drawing,
Yes,
what do you call that?
that's a floor plan.
Thank you. And then presumably, I'm holding it like this because the vehicles would come in here.
Yes, that would orient it in the same way as the site drawings.
And so I'm seeing boiler room and electric.
There will be a small heating room and an electrical room. The electrical room will have, I believe there's access from the outside to the electrical room, and that is to allow, the electrical room will house controls for some of the other existing site lights. They'll be relocated into that room, so coaches will be allowed to access only the electrical room to turn lights on and off, but they wouldn't have access to the rest of the maintenance building.
We call that the greens lighting, or?
Yeah, it runs all the field lighting.
Field lighting, thank
Field
you.
lighting for Tenny Field.
For Tenny Field and Natowich.
Oh.
All comes through that whole switch gear. One goes goes from the grandstand over to the colonel's den, out to the field, depending on where you are, which switch you flip.
Could you describe that type of lighting? And
It's the existing lighting that's already there.
okay.
It's the athletic field lighting.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I guess the boiler room is referenced.
So at this point, they have not engaged an MEP, so.
What's the word?
A mechanical, electrical, and
Yeah.
plumbing engineer, so
Okay.
that is a room that's allocated to heat and climate control.
And the main use of this building is to work on vehicles, is it also?
No, the main use of the vehicle is to store machinery and equipment, which
Okay.
is now laying all over the place.
Oh, okay. So my understanding therefore is that your heating and cooling requirements wouldn't be the same as the heating and cooling requirements you would have for, let's say, a classroom or an office.
That is correct. Originally, in the original plan, there was office space. I
Okay.
took all that out, reduced the size of the building. We just need to house machinery. We
Yeah.
don't need office space. And that reduces the energy load too.
Yeah.
So we're gonna keep it around 50, 55 degrees
Okay.
during the winter time.
Okay. And is there an issue would there be a requirement for cooling in the summer?
No.
You don't foresee
No
that
cool.
happening?
No.
I just have one quick question. Trench drain, that's floor drains, I presume?
Yes,
And that ties into town sewer, not into the,
that,
Town sewer.
okay.
And it would be the same town sewer that supplied the water for the bathroom that's located in there? Okay. And then I guess since Mr. Valenti isn't here, because doesn't he always ask about outside lighting?
Yeah, I was gonna ask that.
Oh, well, that's the chair that always asks about outside lighting.
So, are there lights on the building or just?
I believe there are external lighting over the doors. And there was a cut sheet provided, so it's like a wall pack. Yep.
Yeah.
And so that's external to the building. It's fully shielded, downcast. And it would be over the doors to provide lighting in an evening situation.
Makes sense.
This is my hobby horse, which is the color temperature, and it's just to let people know that, again, I don't feel that this board should necessarily dictate exactly what color temperature lights are. The idea is that the closer to 2700 is closer to the tungsten of old, the traditional bulbs in color.
Yeah.
And that when you go brighter, it's a cooler, some might say impressive color. But I could also see it as a safety issue.
yeah.
And
on the
that's why
cabin,
in this situation, I would just make you aware of it. It's possible that the larger number of color temperatures may be what you're looking for clarity and safety. So I guess I
that would
don't
be a
really
correct
have it.
statement. I was looking at more like 4,000.
Yeah, but again, I just get issues with thinking of properties that put up lighting that is a very cool blue temperature, which is not inviting and warming, although this building is really just a maintenance building.
So can I comment on the lighting?
Yeah.
So the lighting's gonna be on sensors.
Okay.
So it won't stay lit all night.
Okay.
That was gonna
It's
be my
when
next question.
the guys come in the middle of a snowstorm to get the equipment out, so we can open the school. then the lights would go on, and then after a period of time, they're out and about, the lights shut back off. So I'm very sensitive to, I understand we're in a tight neighborhood, we've gone to great lengths from other lighting issues we've had in the past, so I'll keep the light down to a minimum.
So it's
I need
down-
safety for the workers.
Yeah.
Yes, everything's gonna be full cut off, going to the ground,
Motion.
and will be on sensors, so it
Yeah.
won't stay on.
Okay, we have a letter from the planning board,
The fire department.
about the fire department. Right, well, Sue. To submit a construction permit application to the Vermont Division of Fire Safety and receive a permit before any work begins.
Yep.
Okay. So you don't have to come back after, 3 years, you haven't done it yet, yeah. A 5-foot fence opening,
There's an existing opening in the fence, and I'm happy to meet with the fire department to make sure that this is, did they give you a specific location?
they said access to a hydrant on the Fairground Road near the sand pit.
So there's a fire hydrant approximately here,
Okay.
and there is an opening in this fence right here. It looks like it was probably installed for this same condition, and if it's acceptable with the fire department, we would propose to use that existing fence
Okay.
opening, that gate.
And a Knox box?
So it's a lock.
Yeah, it said padlock on it, and then it says required, that has to be approved by the fire department as well.
Yeah.
Next one is the road entrance to the field will need a signed no parking fire lane.
Where would you like that sign installed?
It says the
Did they
road
articulate
entrance to
that?
the field.
I think you should discuss that with Sharon.
With the fire
Well, I
department?
know, I'm just covering the part she's
No, I understand. I'm just saying that she asked where it should be located.
Right.
And wherever the fire department thinks.
Okay, that's fine.
And,
I know they also had a condition for no storage in
Yes.
the back here, which is acceptable as well.
and have you talked to water and sewer?
We have submitted an allocation request, it has not yet been granted.
And is there an alarm and sprinkler system inside the building? or-
There will not be a sprinkler system, but there will be an alarm system.
Anything else? Does anybody, do you have any comment on this project?
Can I make a request that if we have, because we are going through the Act 250 process, that if there are any minor changes that they request, that they could be approved administratively by Brian?
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You wanna make a motion?
I move that we approve this request and that any changes from the Act 250 will be handled administratively by Brian Bannon.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
You're good with that?
Yeah?
Have fun.
Thank you.
I will be adjourned.
All in favor?
Aye.